Holloway and Mike Cawley. We miss our chairman, who is on his way back from Denver, and obviously we'll have him at the next event. I might note that this is the first entirely virtual meeting of the board in the history of our existence, which is significant. It's too bad that we can't be together in person, but obviously we have health challenges that we need to honor. We have advisory items, no action per se needed to approve those, but we have a consent agenda that contains items for all three universities and the minutes that need approval. All of us have had an opportunity to review those. Are there any questions or comments? If not, we do seek a motion to approve the consent agenda. No second, by the way, is required. Any comments or questions? Consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda.
All right, Phil Albert has made the motion that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor will be polled by Chris Purcell. For this purpose, we have to be polled individually and not just have a voice vote. Chris, you're off. I think you need.
Okay. Regent Paul.
Yes.
Regent Albert.
Yes.
Regent Shirley.
Yes.
Regent Stevenson.
Yes.
Regent Holloway.
Yes.
Unanimous consent.
Very well. Thank you so much, Chris. We will note that for the purpose of the minutes, the motion was carried. And now we will move into action items for each of the three universities under the jurisdiction of the Board of Regents. The first is Cameroon, then we'll go to Rogers State, and then to OU. I saw John, is Larry Rice on or available?
He's on. Yes.
Is he? Okay, good.
Yes.
I can't see him on my screen, but at this time, John MacArthur, if you would note that you're on deck for the purpose of discussing issues involving Cameroon. But beforehand, I'd like to turn to Natalie Shirley for whatever comments she and perhaps Ken Rowe have about your 2B presentation. Natalie?
The both Rogers State and Cameroon University submitted their budget items to us, and I've had a chance to look at it. Is Ken on?
Yes.
Okay, Ken, do you have anything that you want to say about Cameron, or do you want John to go through these items?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate for John to go through those.
Good.
All right. Well, if that's okay, then John MacArthur, you're recognized to discuss Cameron's budget issues, and then we'll respond with Natalie and Ken and members of the board when it's completed. Okay, John, you're.
Certainly. I'll be, thank each of you for those of you who've provided individual feedback and individual questions on the budget. The key budgeting assumption that's built in, we're looking at a 15% enrollment decline, and that is, we hope is going to be a very conservative number, and we certainly hope that we're well ahead of that, but wanted to build the most frugal possible budget while leaving room to grow, which is, I think I'll make that the one comment I'd like to make is the projected revenue of 43.3 million relative to projected expenditures of just over 45 million. That's a much larger gap than we would normally present to you in terms of reserve usage. Over half of that gap is in frozen faculty positions that we are holding. We will not fill those unless enrollment far exceeds the revenue projection of down 15%. The remainder of the budget is, I think, very cautious. The University Foundation voted on Tuesday to award us $350,000 this year and for future years to fill gaps. And we are building and including the $1.5 million in CARES Act funds. Other than that, the E&G budget presented to you is very similar to what you saw last year, subject to your questions.
All right. Natalie, do you have any comments as a postscript to those observations?
No, I think that John has and his team have worked very hard on this budget in a year where we have no certainty of anything except that it's going to hurt. And I think John has done a very nice job trying to mitigate that effort.
Okay. Ken Rowe, any comment from you? You're muted.
Yes,
Ken.
no comment.
All right, let me ask one question, John, if I may. We've talked about trying to entice some of our friends from the Lone Star State across the river to come to Cameroon for college. Is the same drought occurring in North Texas in terms of student populations in their schools as we're facing at Cameron?
No, sir. The North Texas.
John, can you hear me?
I can hear you. The North Texas population is booming. Particularly the north side of Dallas-Fort Worth. I mean, South Dallas is not growing. South Dallas looks a lot more like Cameron and Lawton in terms of socioeconomics, but we are pursuing. We have extended, as we discussed earlier, Regent Keating, that we treat the entire state of Texas as honorary Oklahomans in terms of tuition status. So we know they want to be in Oklahoma anyway. So we do let them come to our school for in-state rates. And we are seeing a slight uptick in participation. The pleasant surprise for us is the number of students this year seeking to live in the dorms, which we were not expecting after coronavirus. Anecdotally, they've had all of mom and dad they can take. So we're actually seeing an increase in the number of individuals who want to live on campus, sir.
Well, that's interesting. I would also ask Larry Rice and Joe Harris to comment on the dorm situation as well. That would be interesting to see if there are similarities. Any other comments or observations? If not, my colleague, you have a motion?
Yeah, and I would like to say that as the liaison to Cameron, John is always very good about reviewing these matters with me, and we had a nice, lengthy conversation, reviewed it in detail, and I echo Natalie's comments about the diligence that has been indicated in that work, and so I would move the approval of the Cameron submitted budget.
All right, there is a motion on the floor to approve the Cameron budget as submitted to us and reviewed by us. A second is not required, I don't think, Chris, is that correct?
You're right. Yes.
All right.
Well,
Then if you would call the roll.
Regent Colley,
Yes.
Regent Albert,
Yes.
Regent Shirley,
Yes.
Regent Stevenson,
Yes.
Regent Holloway.
Yes.
The motion carries and it was unanimous. At this time, let's move to Rogers State. There are
Oh,
four
wait,
items.
Wait.
we have two more items under, well,
Cameron.
actually, one more item under Cameron.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that
Tuition, the
that
tuition,
voted press 2 of the 3. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. And John, you're recognized.
Thank you. I think the second item for your consideration is our request for tuition and mandatory fees. To make this simple as we can for not only for you, but for our students, we're proposing no increase to tuition and mandatory fees at the undergraduate and graduate levels so that everybody can have as predictable an expense as possible. So for your consideration.
Okay. Any comments or questions from any members of the board? Natalie, any comment from you on that one, or Ken?
No, it was built into the budget, so no, I don't have any comments.
All right, but that is then item 2 of 3. Is that correct? That we
That's
do need
item 4. Yeah. We still need it's the item 4, and you'll need a vote on it.
I'll move approval of item 4.
All right, if you call the roll, please, Chris.
Okay, Regent Colley,
Yes.
Regent Albert,
Yes.
Regent Shirley,
Yes.
Regent Stevenson,
Yes.
Regent Holloway.
Yes.
All right, the item passes unanimously. Now that concludes the three items. My little cheat sheet is very simple that I've got here. So all three items have been appropriately reviewed and voted on. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. This time then we'll move to Rogers State. President Larry Rice should be on target to begin his presentation. Beforehand though, Natalie, Shirley, and Ken Rowe, do you have any comments in advance of Larry Rice's presentation?
No, other than to say that Larry and his team worked hard on this again, without any certainty as to how we were going to move forward. And so this budget, I think, reflects a best guess and a best effort at a situation that is virtually untenable.
Okay. Ken Rowe?
No comment, Frank.
All right, fair enough. Larry Rice, you have the floor, and you have 4 items to discuss, and we have 4 items to vote on.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Regent Shirley, too, for your comments. And I'll be very brief. I know that you have a lot to cover with all 3 universities, but we based our enrollment, we based our budget upon a very conservative enrollment number of 9 fewer credit hours than we had at a similar time last year and the last fall. We have a projected revenue of 32 million and some change, which is slightly greater than last year if you put in the COVID money, but we know that that's really can't be part of our, we can be a little bit part of our budget, but it can't be part of our reserves. And so when you back out the COVID money, our projected revenue would be down about 1.4 million and our projected expenses decreased about 1.3 million. So at the end of the day, we have a very similar budget to last year through our cuts and our savings and identified cost savings. And we're actually going to use about 75,000 more revenue than we did a year ago, which is nothing short of amazing for my two newest members of my team, Dr. Razor and Michael Allgood. So they've really done yeoman's work walking in here in midstream and helping me put this together. So at the end of the day, we expect, barring unforeseen things, that our reserves will be very equivalent to what they were last year with a little bit of increase come next year. So with that, I will be happy to stop and see if there's any questions.
Any questions of President Rice? Okay, well, Larry, we do have 4 items to vote on. How do you wish to construct that vote?
Well, I would ask that on agenda item 6, that the OU Board of Regents approve our budget for fiscal year 2021 as presented.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval.
All right, the motion is on the floor to approve the Rogers State budget items. A second is not required. Is there any conversation, any question or observation from any member? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Or excuse me,
Aye.
we have to take the roll. I'm sorry, Chris.
Regent Colley,
Yes.
Regent Albert,
Yes.
Regent Shirley,
Yes.
Regent Stevenson,
Yes.
Regent Holloway.
Yes.
Okay, only one vote is needed then, Chris, on this, and then we can move.
No, well, we have item tuition and mandatory fees for the academic year 2021.
Okay, so that'll be a separate vote right now. Is there?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, Phil, have you made that motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, any discussion, further discussion? observation, question? If not, if you would read the roll. Chris, thank you.
Regent Colley,
Yes.
Regent Albert,
Yes.
Regent Shirley,
Yes.
Regent Stevenson,
Yes.
Regent Holloway.
Yes.
Okay,
And we have the meal plan one next, Frank, number 8.
all right, comment on that, Larry, the meal plan?
We asked your approval, seeking no increase for this year.
Okay. Any questions or comments from any member of the board?
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
There is a motion on the floor to approve. If Chris Purcell would read the roll.
Yes. Regent Colley,
Yes.
Regent Albert,
Yes.
Regent Shirley,
Yes.
Regent Stevenson,
Yes.
Regent Holloway.
All right, the motion passes unanimously. Anything else with respect to Rogers State?
No.
Okay. Very well, we'll move on. Thank you, Larry Rice. Appreciate your presentation and good luck to you and John, 2 wonderful schools. And we wish you all the very best. At this time, we will recognize Joe Harris as president of the University of Oklahoma. You have 4 items to present, but before you begin your presentation, I'd like to hear from Natalie and Ken if there's anything that we should know before the presentation.
Now, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Vice, may we allow Joe to go ahead and make his opening remarks, and then we'll comment on the budget when it comes up for.
Okay, that's certainly fine.
Thank you.
Joe Harris, you're recognized.
Yeah, absolutely. And Regent Shirley, I was going to limit my comments for this meeting to the budget and tuition items. So if you'd like, I think we would all rather hear from you first, and then I can backstop that after you've had a chance to speak. You and Ken have had a chance to speak.
I'm sorry, Joe. I'm choking up a little bit.
That sounds like a great plan.
There's just a moment of shock that I'll need to get over. But anyway, all right. So let me then start with the budget items. This was an enormous challenge. It was certainly a challenge for Rogers State and Cameron. But the budget for OU was certainly made even more complex with the issues of the dorms, with the issues of athletics, etc. So Ken and Joe and their teams just did a fantastic job. The committee reviewed these budgets in great detail. We asked a number of probing questions. We examined their assumptions as they went into making these budget numbers. And so with that, I'd like for Ken to present the sort of the overarching idea of the budget, and then we'll go back to Joe. And Joe, is that all right if we do it that way, or would you rather make comments first?
I've been thinking, I want to give longer comments now. No, I think it would be fantastic if Ken went, and then I'll follow after him. Thank you.
Because we have at least 3 more hours on this call reserved. Okay. Okay, Ken, would you be willing to walk us through the budget?
Certainly. The first document in your materials is the OU Norman campus budget. If you go to the right-hand side, that is the FY21 budget. Go down to the very bottom of the page, you'll see that we're projecting a change in net position of $17,600,000. That will be addressed in one of 2 ways. We intend to continue looking to make changes to either reduce or eliminate that number. If not, we plan on reserves, cover that for 21. I will say that built into the budget, we've already taken action, made decisions to take actions. to either reduce cost or increase revenue. For example, we're doing debt refund 2021. We're going to do discretionary spending reduction, increased online education revenue. We're currently looking at all of our benefits. We're going to have a travel reduction and other things like continued IT consolidation. So those items are already built into this. We continue that process as we move forward.
Okay. Thank you. Joe, do you want to make comments about the Norman campus budget, or do you want to wait until we finish HSC? It's up to you.
Go ahead and finish HSC, and then I'll try and cover all of the rest of it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, because OU and HSC are separate agencies, can we make a motion first for just the Norman campus, and then we'll follow up with discussion about HSC?
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm happy to entertain such a motion, provided the questions and comments have been satisfied. Do any regents have, before we take a vote, you want to have the vote on Norman campus now? Is that correct?
Natalie, it's all in one.
I know it is, but it should be two.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. So, so just go ahead, Frank, and open it up to questions.
All right, questions or comments about the Norman campus? Joe, could you get into the dorm situation very, very briefly on this item, and we'll go to HSC.
Absolutely. And I do want to say, I know this is an unusual format for us, but I just want to make sure everyone on this call realizes how much work has gone into this, as recognized by the Regents, by the teams working on this, but also by the Regents. The committee chaired by Regent Shirley. This is a serious board and a serious committee. And this is a very difficult year for everyone. And I just have to say that if you want to know what good governance looks like and diligence looks like, it has taken place, and there's been a lot of value added here. Norman campus, Ken has covered it well, as has Regent Shirley. The dorm situation is very positive. It's as of today, we're at 97% occupancy of the dorms. There's still time to go on the remaining 3%. And you all will recall, one of the actions that we took this year that was new this year and was part of the larger efforts around COVID was to create 300, and this is a credit to Eric Conrad and his team, 300 single rooms in the towers for the first time. Those are all full. And so now, of course, we also know that with this occupancy, we also have taken steps that are embodied in this budget that are part of the Clean and Green Initiative. And while it's a great slogan, it's important to know there's a lot of substance inside of it. Inside of that, and as you'll see as part of this agenda and part of this approval, are a number of measures that in total for the two campuses, as an initial matter just for cleaning, are north of $5 million that we already know of and are budgeted for this year. An element of that, and speaking directly to the dorms, Chair Keating, is a $2.5 million expenditure that is proposed. And it is for 2,300 antimicrobial devices, which will be installed in every single tower dorm room. So 2,300 separate devices in all 2,300 rooms that are an exceptional step that's being taken to ensure the cleanest practical environment that we'll be living in. So there is a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and a lot of thinking going into this. As you know, we also now have a chief COVID officer who comes from our Health Sciences Center, both with public health and with medical degrees. So and those costs are wrapped up in the budget that was presented. But as of right now, as of today, 97% occupancy in our dorms.
Let me just postscript this in terms of the regimen to make sure that those rooms and corridors and public areas are as safe as they can be. Where do you get your best practices from? Is there a guide nationally, or is it from OU Medicine, or exactly where is it coming from?
Yeah, it's a myriad of places, and that's one of the, and the key has been, how do you draw in what is a novel event how do you garner both the expertise you need from disparate areas, consolidate it, and then apply it where it's not been applied before? Each of the campuses have multiple committees. We have a special pathogen committee that looks over all 3 campuses, that contains our expertise from across the campuses, and obviously focusing on the expertise we have at the Health Sciences Center across the spectrum of health sciences, from infectious diseases to public health, epidemiology, virologists across the board. But on top of that, we also have for each of the campuses executive operations committees that are working on this and meet daily. And then they intersect both with cross membership and then ultimately through the chief COVID officer to me and then to the board. So this went into place and has been in place now for several months. The information synthesis is essential here because it is so unique. There's not one best practice out there for this. There's no playbook for this. So it's been how do you synthesize the information, and then how do you apply it into the various environments? And as you can imagine, the application of those of the knowledge across the campuses and even courses is very different. What happens in a very practical, hands-on area like the College of Medicine, 3rd and 4th years, is different than the College of Medicine 1st and 2nd year, which are didactic. Is very different from a freshman class on the Norman campus. And so we're doing our best to make sure we have this information brought in, synthesized and applied in a rational way. There's no perfection here. It's evolving. One of the comments I made just 7 or 8 days ago on an update video is that we are going to learn, and I borrowed this from one of our regents, from Regent Pearson, and that was that we'd learn more in the next 30 days than we had in the previous 100 days. So we have learned a lot. We are synthesizing it. We're aware it's evolving, but decisions have to be made, and they're being made, and this budget reflects a good number of those.
No, and I think it's really important to keep the faculty, the staff, obviously the student body informed of how these decisions are made, that they are made not to inconvenience anybody, but to provide the maximum good health opportunity for those on our campus. Because there are a lot of question marks from a lot of people about, do we really need to do this or should we be doing something else? So I appreciate your open-mindedness in informing your constituency about all of these things.
No, and I really wish I could name by name, but time doesn't permit. The people that are working on this every single day are doing an extraordinary job. And we're so fortunate to have the Health Sciences Center and the leadership that's come out of there. I'll just name one name. We have in front of the cameras quite a bit, people like Dr. Bratzler and Jason Sanders and others. But a good example of people that are doing extraordinary work is Jill Bush-Rains. Jill Rains, who's a part of this. And there's a whole raft of people that really do meet once or twice a day that are grinding on this. And I think and I know we're doing a great job. And certainly there's a lot of pride in the work they're doing.
Good. Any questions or comments from any member of the board?
Mr. Chairman, as Joe so properly said it, we learn something every day, and Dr. Purcell has helped me understand that for this budget, that we need to take both OU and HSC together. So, if you want to, once we answer any questions about the OU budget, if we can proceed to HSC, I would be grateful.
Okay.
Interject one more time, Chair. I continue to not keep faith with I have nothing else to say, but I do want to add, this is essential, as we both know is going to happen, Regent Shirley. It is really important to note that as we are heading into the finalization of the strategic plan for Norman campus, that even in this pandemic, we see 2 things in this budget that's presented. One of those is for 3 years in a row, this represents the 3rd year in a row that a budget is being presented for the Norman campus without tuition or fee increases, tuition or mandatory fee increases. That's important because we know for the previous 15 to 20 years, it was common in higher education overall, which were regular substantial increases. We also have new investments in this. So the idea of not just trying to get to even, but continue our forward progress is essential, and that is also part of this.
Yeah, that's very strong. Very impressive to all of your constituents. So have a motion on this particular item and then go to HSC?
No, we're gonna go ahead and go to HSC.
Okay.
And then do them both together.
All right, fair enough. Joe, you're recognized to continue the conversation of Health Science Center.
All right, thank you. The Health Science Center budget, Ken Rowe has walked through it. It does allow for, it absorbs, both campuses have absorbed a 3.95% budget cut for Norman campus. That's another $4.7 million in reduction for the budget for the Health Science Center. It's $2.9 million that is absorbed in this. But again, this is one that doesn't just get us to a budget that allows us to simply survive the year, but actually allows for some new investment. Not as much as we would like, but it does move us forward, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from members of the board? Okay. Natalie, you're recognized. What do we move to now?
I move approval of the OU and the HSC budgets as presented.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Any debate, discussion before we ask Chris Purcell to call the roll? Any comments or questions? Okay, Chris, if you call the roll, please.
Regent Foley,
Yes.
Regent Albert,
Yes.
Regent Shirley,
Yes.
Regent Stevenson,
Yes.
Regent Holloway. Thank you. Unanimous, Frank.
Okay, thank you. There is a unanimous vote, and I appreciate that. Joe Harris, anything else?
No, in reading from the body language that's even available over a virtual reality, it looks like I should keep the comments to a minimum. I will say this, and that is that while we're covering budget items here, I know there may be other questions members of the press have, and on maybe even different topics in addition to these, and I will be available. We've already set it up after this call for press availability. So while comments right now are being limited to this, I know there are other topics that may be of interest, and we certainly want to make sure those are addressed, and I'll be available to do that.
No, I think that's very good, because I noticed the student newspaper this morning and other press clippings made reference to the fact that we were going to have a meeting, and we want to make sure it's not a top secret venture and that you're out there answering questions as appropriate.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else?
Frank, we've got item 18 and 19. They're tuition and fees for the Norman campus and law, first of all, and then tuition and mandatory fees on 19 for the Health Science Center.
All right, Natalie, you want to make a comment about those?
Yes, those items are actually subsumed within the budgets themselves. So we've just discussed them, although we have to take them separately. So they're already built into the budget that we just reviewed. So I would move that we adopt the tuition and fee rates for fiscal year 2021 for the Norman campus and the law school, and the end.
All right. Any comments, questions, observations from the board? If not, Chris, if you would call the roll.
Regent Colley,
Yes.
Regent Albert,
Yes.
Regent Shirley,
Yes.
Regent Stevenson,
Yes.
Regent Holloway.
Yes.
Unanimous. Just item number 19, the tuition and mandatory fees for the Health Science Center.
Okay, I see Dr. Sanders is on. And Natalie, before we begin, do you have a comment about?
No,
Yes.
again, these are built into the budgets that we've discussed. So I yield to Dr. Sanders.
Okay, Dr. Sanders, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Regent.
Can you hear us? Okay.
Thank you, Regent
So
and Regent Shirley. These tuition and fee increases are for our MD, PA, and DDS programs in our colleges of medicine and dentistry. They're consistent with benchmarks and consistent with the healthcare market.
Okay. Any comments, observations, questions? Okay. Joe, do you have any overview or underview comment about that?
No, I think it was well articulated. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Is there a motion?
Are you ready for me to call Rose?
Please.
Okay,
Natalie?
Natalie, you did make that motion, right? For
I
that?
did.
Yes, she did.
Okay. Okay. Regent Colley,
Yes.
Regent Albert,
Yes.
Regent Shirley,
Yes.
Regent Stevenson,
Yes.
and Regent Holloway.
Yes.
Thank you for all these unanimous votes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it. Are there any other action items requiring a vote before we move into new business?
Don't believe so.
Chris, do you have any? I don't believe so. Okay. The next agenda item is new business. Is there any new business to discuss before we adjourn?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Any comments or observations from members of the board? I'm just grateful that all of you were able to get on, and I know we miss Gary, and hopefully he will safely and securely arrive here shortly.
Regent Keating,
Sir.
I would just wanted to recognize and thank Provost Kyle Harper for his commitment and service to the university. He's been an amazing advocate for all of us, and the way the letter read and the extra help that he gave Joe over the past year and helping us get on the right path with the strategic plan. So grateful for his service and wish we could be there in person to thank him and wish him well, and certainly glad he's going to remain a part of the university.
No, very well said. And Joe, I'd like to have an observation from you if we could, but Kyle is a real asset. As you all know, he's finishing a book on the history of pandemics in the world, and you can rest assured that's going to be quite a book. And we're looking forward to it, and hopefully we'll be able to read it. But Mr. President, you want to make a comment or an observation as a postscript to
Yeah,
Eric's
absolutely. Regent Stevenson, thank you for bringing it up. Certainly the words I wrote yesterday, I feel completely. When I first came in within days of me taking the interim position, he indicated that he really wanted to get back to his scholarship. At that time, we didn't realize how timely an authoritative book on the history of pandemics might be. That was some 13 months ago. And he agreed to stay until January. And then there was much to do to serve the institution, certainly including the strategic plan, and also going after top talent for these dean's positions. And he was true to form. He agreed to stay and help and did an extraordinary job. As you all know, his leadership on the strategic plan, especially as it relates to Norman, but also more broadly, has been invaluable. And the number of deans that have been brought to this Board of Regents over the last several Regents meetings reflects the success of those committees in getting top-level talent. So we certainly have benefited in manifest ways from his leadership and commitment. He finally came forward and said, Joe, if you haven't noticed, even for someone who is not a historian, this will be a really good time for me to finish my book on the history of pandemics. That's a hard argument to beat. And while I was successful on 2 occasions, I wasn't successful on the 3rd try. And so I'm thankful he'll be a fully engaged member of the faculty and helping also lead us as we implement this strategic plan. So truly thankful for his love of this university, his commitment as a scholar and a teacher, and his service to this university. And we look forward to many, in his case, many decades to come of that.
Yeah, we don't want to lose him. He's first rate. That's wonderful. Any other comments, questions, or observations from members of the board before we adjourn? All right. If not, Chris tells me that according to Robert's Rules of Order online, all we say is we are now adjourned. So thank you very much, everybody, for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe travel.
Y'all be safe.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.